Okay, good evening. I, Cassandra Phillips, President of the Duncanville ISD Board of Trustees, call this meeting of the Duncanville Independent School District to order. Let the record show that a quorum of Board of Trustees is present, that the meeting has been duly called, and that notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. We will now go into closed session. And being that we do not have any closed session items to discuss, we will now move to opening ceremonies. Before we go there, I would like to mention, just read our mission statement. This is something that I would like to do every month. The mission of the Duncanville Independent School District is to provide each student with the necessary skills to achieve lifelong success and contribute to a global society. And our vision is Duncanville ISD, writing success stories, one student at a time. We will now move to opening ceremonies. And Trustee Vera Cruz will lead us in the invocation as we start the opening ceremonies.
Thank you, Madam President. If you please join me in prayer. Father, we come to the table with joyful hearts. Grateful we are for crossing over into the new year, 2021. We look forward to a fresh start with new passion and new assignments. And of course, Lord, we seek your heavenly guidance from above. Lord, your love and protection has given us joy and encouragement during the days of trials and tribulation in the old year. Father, we move to press into the new. Lord, refreshen the hearts of teachers, students, principals. Give peace and wisdom to the leadership team, Dr. Smith and the team of 8. In Philippians 4:4, it says, rejoice in the Lord always. Lord, may we continue to rejoice in your name always as we journey into a new year. Continue to light our pathway, and may we continue to trust you in the waiting. And together we say, amen.
Thank you, Trustee Vera Cruz. Trustee Colton will lead us in the pledges. Join me in the pledge to the U.S. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Pledge to the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance, flag. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. That's why I gave her that. Thank you, Trustee Colton. We will now move on to the superintendent's report. I will now turn it over to Dr. Smith.
Thank you, Madam President, and good evening, board members. It is so good to see you this evening. Thank you for being here. I have just a few items that I would like to share with you this evening for the superintendent's report. The first item that we have this evening is just an update on my continuing really commitment to stay connected to our students even during the pandemic. Under normal circumstances, I have a regular scheduled time that I go to campuses and I visit students in classrooms. It's been a little interrupted this year with the pandemic, but I've still been making an effort virtually, and this was a great opportunity. This is Ms. Coleman, who is a teacher at Acton Elementary School, and so we did a virtual classroom visit on last week, and it was absolutely awesome. I had an opportunity to visit with second graders. If you've ever visited with second graders, that can be a pretty intimidating meeting. And so they asked some of the most interesting questions that are very hard to answer. And so we had a really good time. These were students that were both in person and students that were virtual. And so this was a great opportunity for me to really welcome them back to the school year, encourage them to stay focused, ask them how things were going. And they were so excited and so engaged, and I was just very excited to have that opportunity. And we'll continue to have these virtual classroom visits throughout the remainder of the second semester, but certainly wanted to share that with you. The next item I have is really just comments. Board, we have a number of things that we're going to be presenting to you on this evening. As you know, January is the month that we recognize school board members. And so we have some very exciting things for you later in this presentation, but also back to your right there, we've got lots of gifts for you. And these are just expressions from our district for your commitment and your dedication. We also will be having messages on our marquees across the district at the various campuses. And so I'm really fortunate to be here in Duncanville to work with such outstanding individuals who are truly committed to doing great work and service to our school district and our community. And so it's an honor for me. And so I wanted to share just a few comments here regarding, our school board and the month that we really recognize your efforts. I want to thank you, board, for your commitment to serve and support. There are a number of different examples throughout the year and the last few months that are just worthy examples of your commitment in terms of service and support. I think about the COPE program and all that, the planning that went into that, and how that continues to benefit our students all across the district. And so y'all's dedication to be a part of that and to really understand how important that is, and that families really look for this opportunity in this time of the year. We've gotten accustomed to that, so I don't think we can ever not do it now because they actually love that. But all of the hard work, everyone, it's always easy when you have an event for people to perceive that, hey, things have gone really smooth. But the reason they go so smooth is because of your work and your commitment behind the scenes to make those things happen. People don't see the planning. They don't see the hard work. They don't see the interruption in your schedules, but that's what that commitment and support is like. And so I want to thank you for that. I also want to thank you for supporting our teachers and this entire district through this pandemic. There has never been a year ever in school like this year that we're having. Everything that we take for granted in terms of routine has totally been turned upside down. And your commitment, and most of all, your patience with me and with our district and our teachers and staff through all of the changes and all of the moving parts, words cannot express how much I appreciate it and how much the staff appreciate it. So I want you to know I really appreciate that. Things like the extended paid leave that you all approve for staff who are dealing with COVID. Things like the additional social and emotional support that you all have approved for this district. Those positions and the people that are out in the field working every day trying to provide emotional support, not just for our students, but to our staff and teachers as well. Those things have been so very important for us trying to maneuver and get through the challenges with the pandemic. So I want to thank you for that. Supporting students with technology. We know when we were hit in March, we were in a tough situation. And I came to you and asked you if there was anything that we could do from being creative with our funding to address technology. And you just stood right up and said, yes, go do what you need to do for the students. And so we were able to purchase many, many devices for our students. And those devices are still coming in today. But that is an example, another example of just your commitment, your support, and your service. And then being committed to governing this district. Annually, you review board operating procedures. You had your meeting just recently, always talking about what it takes to be a team, understanding the role of the board, That is so vital and has been so key in the success and the trends that we've been able to see in our district. And I want to thank you for that, your flexibility and your patience during board meetings. We've gone from having board meetings where we were meeting at home, trying to work through. I remember the first meeting we had with Zoom. It was a pretty rough meeting now. And it wasn't just y'all, it was me too. So I even struggle with that, and I've gotten better with the technology piece. But your patience as we have tried to take care of district business and trying to work through all the technology pieces and the components that go into that. I appreciate your patience, and I do not take that for granted. And so I want to thank each of you for supporting me. I want to thank each of you for all that you do for this district. And this month is just one month that we get to just kind of, in a real focused way, say thank you, and not just say it, but show it. But for me, every month should be Board Recognition Month with this board. So I just want you to know from me, I appreciate that. And I'm excited to present to you in the next few moments here as we continue in our board meeting some of the things that we have planned. I hope you appreciate the students. They've done some good things for you that they're going to be singing for you in just a moment in a video that we have. And so we're really very thankful to have you as our board members. So thank you for that, board. I wanted to share that with you. The next item that I have this evening that I'd like to share is a report on is our Dallas County Promise and our Parent Promise. You're familiar with Dallas County Promise, but maybe not as familiar with the Parent Promise. We haven't talked about that as much over the last several months, but we are continuing to do this work behind Dallas County Promise. And so just a quick reminder with our Dallas County Promise, basically any high school student, any high school senior can attend college for free through this Dallas County Promise program. You may remember a few years ago, we were not even a part of this, and we were one of the few districts around here whose students did not benefit from this opportunity. And so once I realized that, we immediately put a plan in place, went through the process to qualify, and they did on-site visits and all of that. And so we obviously now are part of Dallas County Promise, and many of our students are getting an opportunity for this free college. And so right now we had a little over 400 plus students that already have committed to the Dallas County Promise. And basically what you have to do is you have to just take the pledge and sign up. You have to apply for the Promise Partnership Scholarship College opportunity. And then the biggest thing, you have to complete the FAFSA. That's a huge part, and we track that, and we are able to really promote that at the high school, and the staff, they do a really great job of making a big deal about that, because we know that that's one of the first opportunities that students will have to be able to really take that step into getting into college, is completing that FAFSA and having the support for the parents to help them through that process. Well, there's another component with the Dallas County Promise, and it's the Parent Promise, where the parents of students who attend a Promise High School, they're also able to advance their education through the Parent Promise process. And so this year we have 4 parents who have pledged to continue their education and get an associate's degree at no cost to the parent. Get an associate's degree or a certificate at no cost. And so again, we've got 4 parents who've pledged to continue their education utilizing the Dallas County Promise Parent Scholarship. And so I'm excited about that, and we'll be looking forward to continuing to report to you their progress as they, and hopefully even bring them here to meet you in a board meeting in the future as they progress in their college degree plan. The next item that I have, actually it's our last item, I want to just say congratulations to Coach Samples on an outstanding football season. He had a great season. Unfortunately, we came up a little bit short this year, but we're really proud of the Panthers and the great season. This was a season unlike any other season. It was really more than just about the games on Fridays or Saturdays. they had COVID protocols that they had to really get through Monday through Friday, just to get to the point to where they could play a game. And with so many students to track, it was quite a challenge. But they continued to achieve excellence even during the pandemic, took extraordinary measures to be able to maintain and compete week to week. And they advanced to the state semifinal game for the third consecutive year. And I think that's a testament to Coach Samples. Closed the season with a 10-2 record. Coach Samples' coaching record, he has 298 wins and 84 losses, according to the UIL. That's up there. That's up there. And so he's built a solid program, and because he's built a program, we know that we're going to be right back here next year. And so we just wanted to take a moment to let him know, let our team know, the board know that how much we appreciate their efforts and the outstanding season that they had. And so that concludes the superintendent's report this evening, Madam President.
Thank you, Dr. Smith. We will now move to recognitions. I will turn the meeting over to Ms. Kathleen Brown.
Mr. William Young, Director of Fine Arts. On last month, the board voted to bring Mr. Young on as our Director of Fine Arts, and I would like to take this opportunity to formally introduce him to you all. We would like to welcome Mr. William Young as the new Director of Fine Arts for Duncanville ISD. Mr. Young brings over 16 years of experience to his new role. He started his educational career as a band director in Opelousas, Louisiana. Upon relocating to the DFW area, Mr. Young served as an assistant band director at David W. Carter High School from 2005 until 2010. Here, he directed instrumental performers in the areas of marching band, concert band, soloist, orchestra, and ensembles. In 2011, Mr. Young was hired as the director of bands at Skyline High School and served there until 2015. Most recently, he was the Director of Fine Arts in Cedar Hill ISD, where he oversaw all fine arts programs for the district. Mr. Young is happily married to his wife, Michelle, and they have 4 children. He is excited to bring his talents to Duncanville ISD, where he plans to motivate the fine arts staff and students to assert their inner strengths and abilities while continuing to create world-class fine arts programs in the district. Please help me welcome Mr. William Young.
Thank you, Board, for the opportunity to serve Duncanville ISD and the students and staff. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Young. We just want to say thank you, and we are excited for what you are going to bring to our district. We're looking forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Young. Obviously, we can't come around and shake the board's hand under
Does
these
the board,
situations,
anyone
but
else want to say
we can
anything?
just give a wave, and if there was any other board members that wanted to welcome, that'd be appropriate, since
Yeah.
we can't shake hands anymore.
Would any other board member like to say a few words? Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Madam President, Board of Trustees, and Dr. Smith. We'll continue recognitions tonight by carrying on with what Dr. Smith has already expressed so well. January is School Board Recognition Month. It's the time when we get to turn the tables and celebrate you. Every day you're celebrating our teachers, our students, our staff, our community. And so we want to make sure that we take the time this month to honor all that you do. As volunteers, you step into this role and agree to support your school district like no other, and you guys are excellent at doing that job. The support that our district feels is very evident. And just to give you just a little token of that, a small, gracious effort back, the campuses and some of the departments within the district have given you gifts at the table. So at the end of the board meeting, please stick around so that we can get a group photo of you. so we can have one that's together, but also so that we can make sure that we get your gifts to the car with you. Several campuses would assign to each board trustee so that you had an opportunity to be able to receive some really kind gifts that are given from the heart. In addition to these gifts that you're receiving tonight, you may have noticed that in today's Staff News and Informer and on the website, there's been stories about our Board of Trustees. So throughout the month, you'll be hearing from me and my team as we reach out to you to write articles to share with the community a little bit more about who you are. So often people see you at these meetings, they see you in the community, but they don't necessarily know what drives you to serve. And so we want to share some of that with our community members so they understand a little bit more about why you do what you do. And so we will be reaching out with that. And those stories, again, will be on the district website, in each weekly newsletter, and also on social media. So we've already started today, and we'll continue through this week. And every week there will be 2 or 3 board members who will be recognized throughout the month of January. So we may not have gotten to everyone yet, but we will before the end of the month. And just we're honored and excited to celebrate each of you. And so just to give you a token and share just a little bit more about how gracious we are that you are our Board of Trustees and that you take such good care of us, we have this one video we wanted to show you really quickly to just express our gratitude.
Of all the feelings that a young person can have,
there is this one feeling that without it, life can seem desolate, empty.
When it is not there, hope.
Yes, hope, esperanza.
Hope for the future.
Hope to be loved.
Hope to be heard.
we must never underestimate the power of giving hope to a child.
Listen to the sound of my voice. Can you feel the beat of my heart? Listen to the questions I have. Listen to me. It's all very simple to see your need. Give us hope. My voice is calling. Can you see?
This is for you, and so we are just so grateful. Again, you are an amazing group that really supports us, so thank you all so, so much.
That was beautiful. Communication from citizens to discuss pending agenda items board, and not have any communication from citizens regarding a pending agenda item, so we will now move to take action on items discussed in closed session, which we did not have, but, let's, board members, if you wouldn't mind looking at the let's discuss which items we're going to move, if any. Okay. So that is
7C.
C. Okay. Are we, what about B? B. Did you say D or B? B is in boy. Okay, B is in boy, yes. Okay. So I have, so far I have B and C. What's, thank you. What about A?
Oh, yes. I think it's normal.
Okay.
We're going to have a normal year this year.
Yes.
For elections.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so are we in agreement with A, B, and C
A, B,
to
and
move?
C?
A, B, and C? Okay, great,
I
thank
agree.
you. Okay, so we will now move to the consent agenda. And do I have a motion?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion that we add items 7A, B, and C to the consent agenda.
Second. Okay, thank you. Trustee Janice Savage Martin moved to move items 7A, B, and C from the action agenda to consent. And trustee Jacqueline Colton seconded the motion. Are there any questions, comments, or discussion? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Opposed? Okay, so the motion has passed 6-0. Thank you, board. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended?
Second.
Okay, trustee Carla Fahey moved, and trustee Janice Savage Martin seconded the consent agenda be approved as amended. Are there any questions, comments, or discussions? All in favor, raise your right hand, please. Okay, all opposed, it will be a 0, so motion passed 6-0. Thank you, board. Okay, so we're moving. Okay, so we will now move to action item D, quotes related to grant award serving line and decor package at Alexander Elementary, and the presenter is Mrs. Andrea Fields.
Good evening, board members, Madam President, and Dr. Smith. Happy New Year to you. And tonight, thank you for the opportunity to present to you for approval the quotes for a new serving line at Alexander Elementary School. First of all, each year, the Child Nutrition Department sends and submits to the state of Texas, to the Texas Department of Agriculture, a list of all of our campuses. And of course, they track with us all of our equipment. And so this past year, we submitted the list of all of our campuses in the district, and the Texas Department of Agriculture selected Alexander Elementary School for a new serving line. The grant was received from the Texas Department of Ag in the amount of $75,000. And so it's an equipment grant. You may be saying, why Alexander? Well, the state selected Alexander. You may also be wondering, have we been awarded this before? And we have. Central Elementary received a serving line with all of the logos and everything just about probably a year or so ago. Additionally, over time, 1 year we received 30 milk coolers for the school district. And so we have been very fortunate for Ms. Donna Thomas and her team as they have submitted this to the state. So in front of you, because we received the $75,000 and in line with our, of course, our purchasing, we're asking you to approve the quote of quote number 1, and you see that in your board book. I think it's probably on page 78 through 80, Pasco Brokerage. And you see the other quotes. Some were over the $75,000. And because we have a good relationship with Pasco, they have other equipment in our school district. And so we're asking for your approval. I think the quote that they submitted to us was right under the $75,000. It was $74,900, so $100 shy. And so I'll be happy to answer any questions. The child nutrition staff will work with Pasco once it's approved, and the installation will begin this spring.
Thank you, Ms. Fields.
Yes,
Do I have a motion in regards to the quotes related to grant award serving line and decor package at Alexander Elementary? I second. Okay. Trustee Carla Fahey made the motion to, moved, and Trustee Jacqueline Colton seconded the motion. Are there any questions, comments, or discussion? I just have a comment. Trustee Colton?
Mrs. Fields, I just have to commend you all on taking the initiative to go after the grant and congratulate you all for actually receiving the grant, which is monies that the district doesn't have to pay. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. This does, of course, means that we can keep that money in the child nutrition budget, and so they can continue perhaps to purchase something else that's much needed for our students. And so thank you very much on behalf of our team. Any other questions for me?
I do. Does Alexander know that they're receiving the grant?
Yes, we received this. We've been out with COVID. I'm kind of foggy now, but we received a notification probably right after we came back to in-person instruction. And so we've been working with the child nutrition department, the communications department, because they're going to also get pretty signage. It's going to kind of give them a refresh in their cafeteria. So we're excited about that. They'll have their mascot and those kinds of things. So it's going to be fun. So we're excited about it. Yes, ma'am.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Are there any other questions, comment, or discussion for Ms. Fields? No? Thank you, Ms. Fields.
Thank you.
Okay, all in favor, please raise your right hand. All opposed? 0. Okay, so that motion has passed 6-0. We will now move to action item F, consider approval of 2021-2022 academic calendar, and the presenter is Tiara Richard.
Did you miss item E?
I have it in my hand, sorry.
That's okay.
Thank you for catching that. Yep, I sure did. Out of order here. Okay, so we are going to move to action item E, map growth assessment. The presenter is Dr. Karen Palachka.
Well, good evening, Madam President, trustees, and Dr. Smith. I'm excited to share with you this evening a new resource for measuring student growth and guiding personalized learning for our students. When measuring student progress and growth, educators are often limited to assessments that provide lagging data. and they fail to really fully align to state standards or our curriculum, and leave the teacher with having to really guess about the skills students have mastered and make assumptions regarding their readiness to learn. The MAP growth assessment will help our teachers to go beyond assumptions and give them specific information regarding the skills of their students, the gaps that need to be closed, and what students are ready to learn. Although this resource has been under consideration for a while, the current situation with the pandemic has made the need even greater, therefore accelerating our recommendation for approval and implementation. For over 40 years, NWEA has been a respected leader in the area of student evaluations in 146 countries and partners with over 400 Texas school districts. MAP Growth is a comprehensive assessment that tracks the growth of students in grades kindergarten through 12th grade in reading, language, and math. It also assesses for science, but that is a supplement that we're going to consider adding at a later date. MAP Growth is an NWEA computer adaptive assessment that is aligned to our Texas standards with over 50,000 unique test items. The assessments are nationally normed among 10.2 million students, which will allow us to compare our students at the state and local level as well as at the national level. Students can be assessed 3 to 4 times a year, typically at the beginning, middle, and end of year with an optional summer assessment. Assessments are untimed, and they connect with some of the current programs that Duncanville ISD already utilizes, including Edugence, Edgenuity, Achieve 3000, and others. After students are assessed, the teachers are provided the comprehensive reports that provide them with a normed RTI, or RIT, score that is used to personalize and guide instruction, provide students and parents with acceleration and intervention resources, and to help the students set learning goals. As a student engages in testing, the adaptive assessment will provide the student with easier or more difficult questions until a student's skill level or RIT score is pinpointed. This allows a teacher to know exactly where students need to catch up, keep up, or move up. And I like that phrase, catch up, keep up, or move up. So what is a RIT score? RIT scores are based on an equal interval scale and measures academic growth like a yardstick would measure our physical growth, our physical height. It's not grade level dependent, but does provide grade level norms. Although there's tremendous value in the assessments and data, there are also other features that make MAP Growth a valuable resource for our schools, teachers, students, and parents. First and foremost, the accessibility features for students are outstanding, allowing every student an opportunity to really perform at their very best. The reading and math assessments are also in Spanish as well as English, and the assessments can be taken on iPads and Chromebooks as well. Although we will offer facilitated professional development, there's also online learning available to all teachers and leaders. There are also resources for parents and students as well. There are 2 other features that I really believe make MAP Growth invaluable for our district. It has a College Explorer feature that allows students to utilize their RIT score to explore college that would best fit their learning. In addition, we can project a student's state assessment performance based on their RIT score, which other districts have indicated as being highly correlative. Based on a 2017 MAP Growth study, This product has a very high percentage when it comes to classifying a student's proficiency level and predicting their STAR performance. This will be a clear benefit to our campuses when it comes to accelerating learning and providing remediation. The MAP growth is also a reliable predictor of SAT and ACT scores. So, upon board approval, it is our plan to move towards training and implementation by February. Of course, this spring, we are in the beginning pilot phase, so campuses will really have a choice regarding the scale of implementation. Some may implement just a few grade levels, while others may only engage with selected teachers and students. Either way, our goal is to provide the opportunity for schools to just become familiar with MAP growth this semester and build the capacity of team members prior to full implementation starting next year. We will be using MAP to do pre- and post-assessments for all students identified for summer school as well. Once MAP growth, we'll change slides, there we go. There we go. Once MAP growth is fully implemented, we will be expecting all campuses to administer 3 assessments each year, the fall, the mid-year, and the spring. We'll make sure results are shared with parents and students with links added to the campus website for resources and support. We will also expect campuses to have data talks following each assessment period and attend annual training for continuous improvement. As stated previously, we will utilize MAP as part of our summer program and will of course expect to see evidence of personalized learning in the classrooms based upon a student's RIT scores. As I shared at the beginning of the presentation, we're very excited about the possibilities of MAP growth that it will provide for our teachers and students. It will allow us to be more prescriptive in closing achievement gaps through action-oriented data points and provide us with the tools to set meaningful learning goals with and for our students. Therefore, it is the recommendation of the administration that the board approve the purchase of MAP growth and associated professional development for the remainder of this school year for the amount quoted. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Dr. Halachka. Do I have a motion in regards to the MAP growth assessment?
Madam President, I have a question.
Okay, let's do the motion first, please.
Yes, I'd like for the board to approve the purchase of MAP's growth and associated professional development in the amount of $117,995.90.
Okay.
A second.
Okay, Trustee Janice Savage Martin moved to approve the purchase of MAP's growth and associated professional development in the amount of $117,795.90. And Trustee Jacqueline Colton seconded the motion. Now, I saw Dr. Ivory's hand up with a question or comment or discussion, so we're going to go into that, and then we'll move to Trustee Vera Cruz.
Thank you, President. I have a couple of questions. Thank you for that presentation. That was very good. What is the MAP replacing?
It's actually, those are conversations we are going to have over the spring when we do the pilot. What we are going to put together is a planning committee, and with that planning committee, we're going to, once we kind of see how MAP growth works with some of our students and we pilot it, we're going to look at what we can actually eliminate in regards to our overall testing and assessment plan. But there are several things that we've talked about that we could potentially eliminate in regards to our overall assessment program. So we haven't set that definitively at this point, but there's a couple of things on the table for sure.
What are we currently using that does several of the things that MAP does?
Okay.
What do we use?
Currently, we utilize iStation. You may have heard that several times. So iStation is a tool that we utilize. We do that at the beginning, middle, and end of year as well with our students, and it does provide us with some valuable data, but not to this level. And so that is definitely a tool that we are looking at. There is some value in maybe keeping parts of it, but we're looking at, do we need to maybe replace that with MAPS growth? The other is how we utilize our district assessments. So we have district assessments 4 times a year, and how we utilize our district assessments. Now, of course, district assessments measure our curriculum implementation, so they kind of have a different role, but it's a conversation of how we are utilizing those district assessments and where MAP could fit in with that as well.
So currently, we would just add maps to the other things that we already have?
For the spring, yes.
Okay.
But we anticipate there is something that we are going to relinquish or minimize moving forward. But during the spring, for the pilot, yes, we will be adding it to what we're already doing.
Okay, and with, it says K-12, when would this be used during instruction for secondary?
For secondary, we would have testing windows in which they would do their MAP growth assessments during their assigned instructional period. So if they're assigned to an English class, they would do the language and reading during that time. So, and the high school gets more into some of your subject areas, and so it would be when they're assigned to those classes.
Okay.
Great question.
Just really quick, can you tell me the difference in the assessments with MAPS and our benchmarks? I'm trying to understand why we would add an additional testing.
Yes, absolutely. So MAPS is a norms test. So it actually compares not only to state performance, but it also compares nationally. It looks at, it does a comparison to SAT, ACT, all those pieces. It is K-12. So our current benchmarks are typically, if we're talking, so we have district assessments and then we also have benchmarks. Benchmarks are typically released STAR test. And so they are the ones that they are not normed, they are, and don't have the same level of predictability that the MAP growth assessment does. They also don't pinpoint to the level that MAP does the exact skill, the exact areas in which students need remediation or acceleration. So the STAR test is very much focused on a grade level standards for the state. And MAP doesn't work that way. It's not about a grade level. It's about, there's a scale, just like a large ruler. And so you may have a student that's in 3rd grade, but on the RIT scale, they're much higher. So they're more like at a comparative to like a 5th grade. So what that scale will tell a teacher is exactly where they need to accelerate that student. So if they're giving them, I always use the example of the, turtle math paper. You don't want to give a student in your class that's at a 5th grade level in a 2nd grade class a math paper, an addition paper, when they are well accelerated past that. So this exactly tells you where that student is, and teachers can personalize learning specifically based on the skill level of their students. Currently, we do not have a tool that does that for our district.
Wow. Thank you.
Trustee Vera Cruz?
I have a question. How are we going to, now, it sounds like this is stress-free. Is this going to be stress-free, when we do the assessment?
It is an online assessment, so it is not something that the teachers are having to copy or create or develop. It's already developed. And so students, I had my nephews this weekend, and they were talking about their MAP test. They're in another district, and they were talking, it was MAP test week. And so they were having the conversation. They go into a computer lab, and they have their sign-in, and they will take their assessment that that's based on their skill level. So as they go, it will ask them questions, and some will be harder, some will be easier, and it's not for a student to pass the test.
Right.
That's not the purpose. It's to find out where a student, what they're ready to learn, where their skills are. And so they talk about, and they actually find value in it. They wanted to know where they were at. And so the teacher is solely there to proctor. And so if a student, one of the features MAP has is if a student just starts guessing, it triggers that and it will stop the test and say, it appears that you were just guessing. And it'll lock it, and the teacher has to come over and put in a code to unlock it and remind the student not to just guess, is to actually take it seriously so it can actually measure their skill level.
And my second question is, how are we going to relay to the parents that this is a stress-free evaluation? What's the verbiage we're going to use?
Great question. All of the districts that have, or a lot of the, I don't want to say all, but most of the districts have a comprehensive website for parents, and they utilize this to have those parent conversations, to talk about specifically where their students are performing well, and it gives value to the parents because there's no question of what skills their child has and doesn't have. It makes it very clear where their child is working and helps them to set goals with their students so that they can, it's not about failing or not performing at level, it's really about where do you go next? Where do we want to work? Where do we go next? And so parents love MAP growth because it provides value in really understanding where their child is performing.
And lastly, we've looked into other districts that are using this and utilizing it with great success, and are we hoping to go that path?
Yes, absolutely. Many of your large districts, there's lots of districts that utilize it, but Dallas utilizes it, Fort Worth utilizes MAP, all the way to Sunnyvale, which is very tiny. So there's a wide range of districts that have utilized MAP for many, many years. And so we rely on them for them sharing with us what's worked, what hasn't worked. Garland utilizes MAP. So it's a pretty common assessment. Plano ISD has been using MAPs for over 20 years now.
Thank you very much.
Trustee Colton?
Dr. Halaska, will the virtual students be able to take advantage of MAPs?
Yes.
Okay. And then are there any ongoing costs in addition to the $118,000?
Well, I will say that MAP's growth is an investment for a district, and we've had lots of conversations about that. It is an investment. This is an annual cost. Currently, what we're paying for is for the remainder of this year up until August and start of school. So there will be another cost associated with next year. What we wanted to do is pilot and make sure, the rollout and all those pieces, and make sure we had the training in place before we move forward. But yes, it is an investment for districts, and it is an annual cost. Of course, the more you add to the program, the more it costs. That's why we're starting with just reading, math, and language. You can add science.
And so would the annual cost be twice the 118?
It won't be quite twice, but it's going to be pretty close.
Thank you.
Trustee Fahey?
Thank you. Did I hear you correctly in stating that each campus will make its own choice as to what grades will utilize the program?
During the pilot, what we're going to do is correct. And so we want them to make some decisions during this semester, during the pilot, what they feel comfortable with. because every campus is different in regards to capacity of staff, regards to access to resource, all the things. And so we're going to get together. We're going to have 2 or 3 people from each campus that would be what we're calling our map guides. I was a former elementary principal, so you have to have a cute name to it. So map guides, and those are going to be our trainers of trainers. So we're going to have the map guides from each campus. We're going to focus on training them, and they will work on creating, doing the assessment with certain grade levels or certain groups of students based on what works for their campus as we create and develop the comprehensive program plan.
Trustee Fahey?
Does it make a difference in the cost whether a campus will use the program in first grade where another campus might use it in first, second, third, and
If we decided, it would. If we decided to only do certain grade levels, then it would impact the cost. But we feel this is such a valuable resource that we're currently not utilizing as a district that it would not be as valuable of a tool if we didn't utilize the K-12, because it will track a student their whole educational career with us. So you can see their growth throughout each and every year and how they're going up and down in their progress. And so it is a comprehensive system, long-range, long-term system. And so we feel it would be inappropriate if we didn't provide that opportunity for all of our students.
Thank you, Dr. Halachka.
Trustee Janice Savage Martin.
One thing I want to remind us of, as well as the parents and citizens at home, that we are able to look for and purchase this type of program, which comes with a high recommendation, only because we were in such a good financial shape before the pandemic. Yes, we've had to spend a lot of money on protective devices and different things that the different departments and teachers needed. But because we were in such a good financial position, we're able to continue to be looking out for the student success. And I think that is wonderful. And that is to be, we need to commend Dr. Smith as well as Dr. Bigby.
Absolutely.
Because guiding us through that.
Absolutely.
Madam President,
yes.
if I may, please. Another important point for the board, we are constantly looking at the impact that the pandemic has had on our students academically now. And so we want to be on the forefront in trying to close this gap as we come out of COVID. The deficits that we're seeing now, we really can't even quantify how long it's going to take us to get our students back to where we were trending before the pandemic. So all the data points that were just highlighted are going to be so key and critical for us and our planning so that we can use a lot of key decisions based on the data and the prescriptive nature in which this program will allow us to see where our students are growing and how they're accelerating through learning. So, it's just really, it's going to be huge for us, and we understand how important the implementation phase is slow and steady. Right now, as Dr. Alaska shared, our principals have a lot on their plate right now. And that's why I wanted to give them some choice right now, because there are going to be some early adopters. They're going to say, yes, I want this, let's go, I'm ready to run with it. But then there are going to be other principals that may not be at that point. And so we don't want to force this on our principals right now. We need to educate, need to talk to them and share, like we are here with you, why we want to do this, what the benefit is. And then if there are those early adopters, they can go and make it happen. And then we can use this semester to really pace ourselves as we get ready for next school year when we're in full implementation mode. So those are just some of the key points from my perspective.
Thank you, Dr. Sharon, Dr. Smith. And Dr. Halashka, I have to say that map growth, the videos excited me. I was excited watching them, but hearing your presentation, just to piggyback off what Dr. Smith just said, just the assessment of our students while they're going through the pandemic, I think it's very critical because so many, we've heard, so many have fallen behind.
Absolutely.
So just the map growth process, if you will, I'm excited to see where it goes.
I'm trying really hard to contain my excitement.
Yes. So are there any other questions, comments, or discussion for Dr. Halashka? And thank you for the very thorough presentation and for answering our questions.
You're welcome.
So transparently. Okay. Are there, I'm sorry, all in favor? All those in favor, please raise your right hand for the motion on the table. Okay. All opposed? Okay. Motion passed 5-1. Thank you, Dr.
Thank
Halashka.
you. Appreciate you.
Okay, we will now move to action item F, consider approval of 2021-2022 academic calendar, and the presenter is Tiara Richard.
Good evening, Madam President, Board of Trustees, and Dr. Smith. I am excited to be back before you to get your feedback and your thoughts on the upcoming academic year and the planning for that. So next slide, please. So as I've mentioned before, last month I came before you and told you that we were in the process of gathering feedback and information on the 2021-2022 academic calendar. And so the planning committee met during December, and that's a committee that included teachers, it included students, it included parents, principals, directors, coordinators. We had about 35 people who were invited to be a part of that committee. And every meeting, we had at least 25 to 28 people in attendance. So it was a very robust committee, people who were very engaged and active, gave amazing feedback and insight. And so with that insight, we were able to develop some sample calendars. The requirements on each of our calendars were very succinct and simple. We know that as a school district, the state requires so many minutes for students in terms of instruction each day. And so that equals to 168 instructional days a year. And for professional development, we know we needed at least 3 teacher work days. And of course, our teacher contracts are 187 days. And so I say everything is about balance. You add more instructional days as we know there's needs that needed to happen in this calendar, and you got to make sure that you balance with days off so that you don't overcome the teacher work days of 187 days. So it's all about balance and finding the right way to make those adjustments. And so, as was mentioned previously, we needed to add more instructional time in the upcoming academic year. With the learning loss that we know our students have suffered due to the pandemic, we know that we need to have more days and more time with our students. And so 168 days is the minimum, and that's our calendar this current year. It didn't start off that way, but when we started school a little bit later and changed the calendar, we had to make sure we had at least the bare minimum. And so with 168 days, we knew we wanted to get to about 180, which is probably ideal. It's sort of the middle ground that's recommended for student instruction. So with that, each of the sample calendars that were presented had 12 more academic days provided on them to make 180 student instructional days. Now, more student days does not mean more teacher work days. Teacher work days still remained at 187, and people say, well, how do you do that? How do you go from adding instructional days but not adding more teacher work days? The way that happens is throughout the calendar every year, the flexibility that we've had when the calendars changed to minutes means that we were allowed to build in days where students weren't there but teachers were. So that's professional development. That's different sort of variances on that. And so there were more professional development days in some of our past calendars than we have in this one. So basically, teachers are still there. They're just doing something different than working with students. In this new calendar, teachers will have more time with students, and that's the goal with that. Next slide, please. So I mentioned the importance of balance, right? So every calendar, whenever you're looking at each of these three options that the committee came up with, they each have a little bit of difference where you take a little bit more on the front end, and that means if you add more days to the front end, that means you end earlier. If you put those days in the middle, you spread them out. If you add days to the end of the calendar, that means you start later. So it's all about balance and shift. And so these are three different calendars that were presented that show that. This first slide is showing it to you in one way, where you look at each calendar's breakdown and how they differ. And so calendar A, something big to remember is that it started earlier than any of the other calendars. But the perk of that is that there is a fall break, which has not been in any other calendars previously. Okay? And in addition to that, there are 2 early release days for students. With the way we have been having to make adjustments between virtual and in-person learning, our parents have kind of gotten used to having their students home at different times of day and sometimes doing instruction differently. So we feel like our parents now, in this moment, are in a better place to be able to manage the possibility of an early release day. That's something we had stepped away from in the past, but I think that it's something that our parents, if we prepare them for these 2 days, would be able to manage. So that's something that's unique about this. Calendar B, I told you, is that middle ground calendar, and it starts midweek. It starts in the middle point of at least the start of August. And instead of having that fall break, it has a couple of 4-day weekends. And so instead of having that full week off for the fall break, it has that broken up throughout the school year, at least 2 times in the year. Calendars A and calendar B both have equal number of first semesters and second semesters. Those days are fairly close, but they're the same in terms of the calendar. So there's 92 teacher work days in the first semester and 95 in the second on each of those calendars. And then for students, it's 88 for the fall semester and then 92 for the spring. So that gives you a pretty close fall and spring semester also. And then filing calendar C is the other end of that spectrum. Again, talking about balance. This is taking it to the other end. School starts in the middle part of the month of August, which is close to our normal start date, but that means that we will have to end after Memorial Day. So there are some 4-day work weekends in there, or 4-day work days, 4-day weekends, excuse me. But the big difference is the fall and the spring semesters are pretty heavy on the spring side. And so just so you understand that. Next slide. And I just want to show it to you one more time, each of the calendars, so you can see them next to the calendar and how they break down each month. So again, calendar A, that option has the fall break, and the orange boxes are early release days. But again, starts early, yes, but it does end prior to Memorial Day. Next slide. And calendar B again is that middle ground version. No early release days, but it ends just shy of the Memorial Day weekend. And again, the final calendar, it starts that second week in August, which we had been doing for a while. We've been pushing up our start date year after year after year in an effort to make sure that we offered breaks throughout the year, because our teachers and our students told us that that's something they prefer. They like having those times to sort of stop and decompress throughout the year. Okay, next slide. So these 3 calendars were presented to our families prior to winter break. And again, that's to families and also to district employees. We received more than 1,200 responses. 55% of those are from staff members, 40% from parents, and then a smaller percentage, and I can tell you exactly what it is, from students. That was 4.2% from students, so that's about 52 students who took the survey. But the variance in those comments or in terms of participation was really good. We were able to hear from a good number of parents and students to really get an idea of what they thought. And the next slide. And then when you asked our parents our families and our staff, which calendar they preferred, it's clear the majority was for option A. And with this survey, we also asked for feedback, anecdotal comments. Why did you choose the calendar that you chose? And much of the comment was because they preferred the fall break. They liked the idea of being able to step away and take a moment right at the start of the year. Now, if it didn't happen there, it'd be spread out through the year, but again, the goal was to be able to provide them an option where they had that opportunity. And so that was the overwhelming interest of having that fall break opportunity with this calendar. And it is a plus because this last year in October, because we had to change the calendar, we didn't really get a break in October. And we felt that and heard that repeatedly. And so I think that's a lot that led to the interest of option A. And so I'll gladly answer any questions that you may have, but I will propose to the board that you approve calendar A as the academic calendar for the 2021-2022 school year. Gladly answer any questions.
Do I have a motion in regards to consider approval of 2021-2022 academic calendar? Trustee Vera Cruz moved. Do I have a second?
Second.
Dr. Ivory seconded the motion, so I'll restate the motion. The Duncanville ISD School District Board of Trustees approves Calendar A for the 2021-2022 academic school year. Are there any questions, comments, or discussion? Trustee Fahey?
Yes, if I remember correctly, in years past, with these pie charts, didn't we always know what percentage of the teachers or staff wanted what? I mean, I could see how many teachers.
We have presented that way sometimes in the past. The way we did it this year instead was to show you how many voted, so then you just looked at the total. But I can tell you that looking at the breakdown that way, it was the majority of our staff did want this calendar. It fell aligned with the overall.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Any other questions, comment, or discussion? Dr. Ivory?
Comment. I served in a district for 12 years with an October break, and they are going to love it. It's very refreshing, and it does break up the year. So I was happy when I saw that in the binder.
Any other questions, comment, or discussion? Thank you, Ms. Richard. Okay, all in favor? Please raise your right hand. All opposed? Okay, so that motion passed 6-0. Thank you again, Ms. Richard, for your efforts on that. Okay, we will now move to action item G, Duncanville ISD 2021 Legislative Priorities, and the presenter is Dr. Mark Smith.
Thank you, Madam President and board members. Just a few points on the legislative priorities. Each biennial, we have the legislative process, and so actually tomorrow, the state will begin the 87th Texas legislative session, and during that time, the board adopts its legislative policies. And so what we have presented to you this evening is the Duncanville ISD 2021 legislative priorities. Madam President, you provided me with feedback a couple of weeks or so ago, somewhere in there, that neighborhood, in terms of just some collective thoughts from the board as to what those priorities should include. And those priorities have been indeed included in all of the items that you see there. Some of the major headings: we have assessment and accountability, we have school finance, we have information on students, we have equity and diversity and inclusion, and then we have COVID-19 funding. And each one of those major headings has a number of bulleted items listed under it that include items such as mental health funding, such as STAR testing requirements, such as funding during the pandemic, such as technology support, such as quicker availability associated with the vaccine for teachers. So we've made sure that we've put that information in the legislative priorities. A couple of other points to share with you of activities that go on during the session. Our Senator Royce West, and our state representative, Yvonne Davis, we have quarterly meetings. Well, we did before. We had them in person. I'm sure we'll have them Zoom now. But we had quarterly meetings where we provide our legislators updated information on our district. And so while they're literally there in session, we're able to share with them information on a number of areas so that they can go and be an advocate for us, and that they have detailed information about the districts in their area that they represent. And so I've kind of taken it a step further. I provide our representatives with what we call a scorecard. And so it just lists some of the basic information in our district, such as finances, such as accountability ratings, such as COVID expenditures, and several things of that nature. And so the benefit of that is that our legislators, when they're right there at the table, they have key information in their district that they can speak to, because they represent a lot of districts and they don't have command of all of that information at the tip of their, at the forefront of their mind. And so it helps keep Duncanville ISD at the forefront, and it helps them be really specific with comments that they can make as all the different bills and thoughts and all the things that we know happen at a legislative session, as all of those things come to the table so that they know how it impacts the district in their area. So those things happen on a regular basis all throughout the session. In addition, we get, through our internal memberships with Mo Casey and the Equity Center, we get a running tab of information of things that are going on daily. What are the daily discussions? What bills are being presented? What's the trend of those bills? And so we're able to utilize that information as well to just really stay on point and updated with the priorities that we presented to you. So tonight what we're doing is basically just presenting to you what the legislative priorities are. If you approve of these priorities, we will also follow up with a press release so that we can make these priorities known to the press. And so be prepared to entertain any questions that you have and any adjustments that you have. There may be some adjustments that you would like for us to highlight.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Smith. Do I have a motion in regards to the Duncanville ISD 2021 legislative priorities?
So moved.
Trustee Jacqueline Colton.
Second.
Moved. And trustee Janice Savage Martin seconded the motion. Are there any questions, comments, or discussion? Trustee Colton?
I had submitted an item related to nutrition education, and I don't know, it's not included in this particular list. And I was just wondering, what the...
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, definitely, we can include something on nutrition. That's not a problem. It wasn't provided for me, but not because it's not an important issue. So we can definitely add something in there on nutrition.
Well, I appreciate that. I guess my concern is that students receive nutrition education even starting in elementary school, so that we can kind of, start addressing, problems that we have with weight and health issues later on in life.
Sure.
So,
Absolutely.
thank you.
Absolutely. So what we'll do, just for the record, for all the board members, we'll put together a priority centered on nutrition. Dr. Cates, you probably already researching that for me as you listen. So we'll get the language and we'll follow up tomorrow, sending it to you all so that y'all can see what that is.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for catching that, Trustee Colton. Any other questions, comments, or discussion? Okay. All in favor, please raise your right hand. All opposed? Motion passed, 6-0. Thank you, Dr. Smith.
Yes, ma'am.
I also have another comment. Thank you for providing this very comprehensive set of legislative priorities. It's just, super.
Thank you.
Y'all have done an excellent job. So
Thank you. Thank you for the feedback.
Okay, we will now move to action item H, process for donations, and the presenter is
That'd be me.
Dr. Smith.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam President. Again, thank you, board members. Trustee Colton, appreciate your foresight on this particular issue. So you may recall at the last board meeting, we discussed donations to the district and how we would recognize, how the board would recognize individuals who chose to be publicly recognized, because we know that not everyone who donates wants that public recognition. But that item, that topic came up, and so we immediately started to address that based on the feedback I got from the board. And so the task for me was to come and bring you all some options to consider what you wanted to do as it relates to recognizing individuals who gave donations. The initial thought was a proclamation, and so I wanted to share some history, revisit what we talked about at the last board meeting. You know, generally, we get very few donations that are $10,000 or more in our district. Very few. This year was just kind of a different year. You would think in a pandemic it might not be the case, but we got a $10,000 donation from Concord Baptist Church, and that was, you know, we had not gotten that before, and we typically don't get that. And then we had an individual who gave, I think it was like 70-something thousand for the upgrade of the weight room for the boys' basketball. And so that was rare and not something that we typically experience. The only other donor, at least in the 5 years that I've been here, that gives $10,000 or more is Mr. Dalton Lott. Of course, he in the past has not wanted to receive any recognition for that, but he will give, and I guess I'm giving him recognition now. Probably shouldn't. Yeah, whoops. But so I'll stop there. You all know he is very generous with supporting Duncanville ISD. So, but other than that, those are really the only times that we've had that $10,000 or more threshold. Yes, ma'am.
Education. Would that include also the $100,000 that our Education Foundation gave?
Yes, that's obviously, you know, just a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity that we were able to receive.
Hopefully not.
Hopefully not, hopefully not, hopefully not.
That's true.
But just kind of wanted to give you the big picture to see what typically comes in from a donation standpoint. That was really the purpose of providing that information to you. So then you charge me with coming back with options. Well, what are our options? What could we? One is obviously giving a proclamation for every donation. Some donations are $100. Some donations are $50. I mean, most of our donations are a small amount of money. Like you see, for example, the donations that are in the board book for this particular month. That's more accustomed to what we generally get. So here are the options that I wanted to provide for you to choose. This is your choice of what the board wants to do. One, you could give a proclamation for every donation that comes through. Another option is donations could be listed separate on the consent agenda each month. Right now, the donations are a part of the monthly financials. If you separated them from the monthly financials and made them a standalone item, then that would give you as a board an opportunity to recognize that individual every month for, you know, their gracious donation to the district. So that's the second thought. You could separate it and it could be a standalone item on the consent agenda each month. Here's another option that I wanted to provide for you. You could do monthly recognitions of our donors and our businesses during our opening ceremonies. So that is a common practice for several districts that do an opening ceremony similar to like tonight. Part of that would be to recognize donors who desire to have that recognition. Of course, we as a district would do the legwork to contact those donors to be sure it would be okay if they wanted to be recognized in that way. And then here's the next item that option that I had for you. You could do standalone agenda items for donations over $10,000. So you could add a threshold that we would do a standalone agenda item only for donations over $10,000. So those are options that I think are good options. There are options that many districts around us utilize. It's more along the lines of the common practice. And so wanted to give that to you all for you to make a decision.
I like the idea of listing it on the consent agenda. The fact that it's anywhere on the agenda, more people will see that because you send it customarily to several people, media, of course, but they'll see it, whereas people may not come to a meeting once we're normal, and people may not be at the meeting to see the announcement during the opening ceremonies. The threshold, I'm not sure about yet.
Okay, that's good feedback.
Any other suggestions, comments?
I have a question.
If not, oh, I'm sorry. If not 10,000, have you thought of another amount? I know ordinarily in our financials, we will have the sheets of paper where someone has donated a lump sum for books or a project. Any ideas of what a minimum or? I know the foundation has the wall at the Alexander, no, at the Shine Auditorium. There's $10,000 donors, and then the $25,000 donors. We've got the plaques. But any thought on what the minimum donation might be?
So my thought for you all to consider would be $5,000.
Good number. That's what I was toying with.
I think that's a really good number for you, a good threshold for you to consider.
Dr. Ivory, you have a question?
The 5,000 as a threshold for, I missed the last part.
I think Ms. Fahey was saying, is there a smaller amount that we would apply? And so I just suggested to the board to consider the $5,000 as a smaller number.
Yes, ma'am.
I like option 2, where there's monthly recognition of all donors, because it doesn't discriminate based on the amount. I think as a school, if somebody, $100 may be a sacrifice for someone to donate. So option 2 gave, to me, gave attention to all of whatever donations, and it didn't specifically have an amount. So I like option 2.
Thank you. Any other?
Yeah, I'd like to share also that I agree with Dr. Ivory. I like the idea of doing that during the opening ceremonies.
Thank you. Trustee Colton, any?
I like options 2 and 3. And then 3 with the minimum of 5,000. As far as, special, recognition.
Okay, well, it sounds good. I hadn't thought about what Dr. Ivory mentioned, stated about maybe donors giving $100. It might be a stretch. So I'm going to go with option 2 also. I think that's a fair option, not to alienate anyone.
Yeah.
So,
we had one tonight, a grant. Should those be put together? Because, that $75,000 grant was really pretty nice, And a state entity, or maybe it wasn't federal, I don't remember now, approved us for that. That's great to highlight that. Plus, the people that are paying the tax dollars can see that, we're not just spending.
right.
Yeah, that's a good
Maybe we
point,
could,
but the only distinction, I guess, or the main distinction is that, typically when we think about donations in this context, we're thinking about community members that donate, or businesses, that donate.
Yeah.
And so that would be the difference for you all to think about.
I agree. And the minimum at 5,000 kind of gives them a number to aspire to, maybe?
I mean, I like both of them, but I just, yes, Trustee Fahey.
Just another thought, if we did it during the opening ceremonies, would it be a recognition by name, like Jackie Colton and Janice Savage Martin gave blah, 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 or would it be an actual presentation of the people standing there? I mean, I'm thinking.
That would kind of be like the proclamation, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
What the thoughts were on that, a name recognition or actually the individual person?
My thought for the board to consider was it would be just reciting the person's name and their company or their representation, not necessarily having them here present.
Yes.
And of course, we would have done the legwork behind the scenes, so they would know that they would be recognized, and we would have an opportunity to tell them thank you, and we really do that anyway. But we would kind of take this to the next level and let them know that they would be recognized in a more formal way with the board.
Okay, any other questions?
So we need a motion?
Yeah, I just realized we didn't do the
Okay.
motion. So do I have a motion in regards to the process for donations?
I'm kind of hearing that we're going with all 4 different recommendations. Dr. Smith?
No, what I'm hearing is that we were going to go with number 2. So during the opening ceremonies, we would recognize individual donations.
Okay.
Is what I understood. Y'all can please correct me if I misunderstood that.
That was my
Then I
understanding
move
as
to
well.
approve the process for donations as presented.
Okay. Trustee Janice Savage Martin moved to, and the second was Trustee Vera Cruz.
One point of clarity, I'm sorry, I just want to make sure. So the 5,000 threshold, are you all still wanting to use that as 5,000 or more that we, a standalone item for donations? We still make that a standalone
Yes,
item?
I'm in my motion to include at the threshold of $5,000.
Okay, would you restate that so I can?
Okay.
Please.
I move to approve the process for donations at a level of $5,000 or greater as presented.
So we'll do 2 things. One, if anybody gives minimum of $5,000, we will make that a standalone agenda item so that it gives it special recognition.
Very good.
The second thing we'll be doing is during opening ceremonies, recognizing individuals who gave a donation. And we'll be recognizing them by name, by company, et cetera. Those are the 2 items. Do I understand that correctly, Madam President?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And that would include gifts such as a car or 2,500 coats, or not just a monetary, not just a check?
Yes, because we could look at the value.
Okay.
Okay, so the motion was amended to approve the process for donations at a level of 5,000 or greater as presented. Are there any questions, comments, or discussions on that? Okay, looks like we are ready for the vote. All in favor, please raise your right hand. All opposed? Motion passed 6-0. Thank you all.
Thank you.
And thank you, Trustee Colton, for bringing that to us.
We'll start next month. We'll start next month.
Oh, okay. We will now move to information and discussion items. The first item in this is the budget development timeline for 2021-2022, and the presenter is Dr. Ed Bigby.
Good evening, Madam President, board members, Dr. Smith. You have in your book what I'd like to call a tentative budget timeline, since it is always subject to change. Some of the dates are solid, which are we have the board meeting nights listed as discussion items as in the past. You know, we've had workshops scheduled, and particularly when the legislature is in session, so I'm sure we'll be adding some workshops that are not listed on this timeline, but we just always played that by ear. And as it became necessary, you guys scheduled a workshop. But on the calendar itself, there are no workshops scheduled. Same as we've done in the past, I plan on communicating with each campus, maybe Zoom this year instead of on campus, but I'll discuss with each principal their allocations and how they want to go about budgeting those. We'll take special budget requests from SLT, different departments. We'll have that open for a couple of months starting tomorrow. And we'll start compiling those so that everyone that has a need or a voice can certainly bring that to us. As in the past, we won't be able to fill them all, but at least we'll be able to list those and discuss them. And other than that, a lot of prayer for the school finance system that's going to be going through the legislature. You know, I always tend to paint a gloomy picture, but it's kind of gloomy down there right now with the state revenue. But we have some people that are very supportive of us, so hopefully they'll move forward and not hurt us. You know, if they'll just leave us alone, we'll be all right. But that usually doesn't happen either. Be happy to answer any questions. Once again, we're just beginning this, and it's really hard to start doing this when we don't have any idea what our revenue is going to be. We'll have a pretty good guess by April, unless the legislature does something goofy. But as Dr. Smith said earlier, we're in contact with all kinds of people that give us daily information. So we'll bring you the best numbers we can as soon as we can. It's always fun when the boys and girls are in Austin.
We'll be providing updates to the board monthly. Every board meeting during the session, we'll be providing updates on the trend data that we're seeing and the information that is being shared with our finance department.
Thank you, Dr. Bigby. Are there any questions, comments, or discussion? Trustee Colton?
I would just like to say we're so happy to see you.
Yes.
And glad that you're feeling better.
Yes.
And thank you so much for this information.
Well, thank you. I'm glad to be standing here.
Yeah. We miss you.
Well, actually, I missed you guys too.
I second that.
Much better than being in bed.
Oh, yes. Thank you, Dr.
Thank
Bigby. We are happy to see you. Okay. We will move to information discussion agenda item B, tax roll analysis, and the presenter is Dr. Ed Bigby.
Thank you again. The Linebarger Company collects our delinquent taxes, and Pam Johnson's here with Sandra T. to go over this with you, and I'll bring them up. They already got in, so I'll turn it over to Pam, and they can share with you.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening. Good evening.
So I'm Pamela Johnson. I'm the partner with Linebarger, Goggin, Blair, and Sampson. And I have with me Sandra Tay, who is the client liaison, who helps me represent the school district. And every year we come and just give you an update on your tax roll analysis. But for some, a couple of you, I may need to introduce our firm. We are a national law firm. We've been in this business for over 40 years. And for the last 37 years, we've been working in the Dallas County area. And about 17 years, we've represented Duncanville Independent School District. We do your delinquent tax collection, and that involves every year we get your turnover in April from the Dallas County Tax Assessor Collector's Office. After we get that turnover, we take a look at your roll. We analyze it. We identify accounts that are protected. Those would be bankruptcy accounts or accounts that are in deferral, we began to conduct a mailing campaign on your behalf. After that mailing campaign, we know some addresses are not correct, so we go about the business of trying to get a correct contact address for the delinquent taxpayers so that we can contact them. We also attempt to contact your taxpayer via telephone, and they certainly are able to call into our office to resolve the issue. We also do site visits on your behalf. Sandra Tay handles all of that. We will talk to your taxpayers and negotiate payment arrangements because, of course, the revenue is what is needed for the school district. And once we have gone through those steps and realized that we still have some people who have not resolved their tax issues, we then identify accounts for lawsuits. We put the accounts that are needed to be placed into lawsuit. We will file a lawsuit against them and begin the litigation process. Out of the litigation process, we get a judgment, and then after that, we're able to take the properties to sale in an attempt to resolve the delinquent tax issue. If those properties are not sold, they're struck off to the county, usually for the school district, and the county will resell them. If possible, we are going to recover some of your revenue, if not all, through this entire process. Then the next slide shows the current year turnover for 2019. Like I said, we receive your business personal property counts in April of each year. Your real property counts, we receive them in July of 2020. And for the 2019 turnover, we received in base tax $1.3 million. That's a difference of $518,000 from the 2018 tax year. And the 2019 turnover included over 1,000 accounts for a total of $1.3 million. I'm now going to turn over to Sandra Tay to give you a synopsis of the activity in those and further break down the turnover for 2019.
Okay, this has a breakdown of the accounts by number of accounts and by dollar amounts. And as you can see, there's 132 accounts where the amount is over $5,000. And that's a big chunk of where your money is. And so when I run reports, I run it high dollar down so that we can collect as much money as we can as quickly as possible. Okay, and this shows the various categories that your delinquent taxes fall in. Now, the green category, that's accounts that are readily collectible, and that's the big chunk of what you have up there. Then you see the blue section, and that's a fairly large section, but that is your senior citizens, your disabled, and veterans, those kind of exemptions. So those are on hold as long as the people are still alive and still living at the property and the exemptions are still in place. Once those exemptions fall off, then we can proceed on the lawsuit, or sometimes the heirs will go ahead, and if they want to keep the property, we'll set up a payment arrangement or try to get the taxes current. And this shows our various activities. And as Pam said, I will sort those out in your community, doing site visits to your businesses and property owners, trying to convince them of the importance of bringing their taxes current. We will work out payment arrangements with them if that's necessary. Of course, we do our mailings, and we have a whole collections department, besides me, that makes outgoing calls and we have a lot of incoming calls. A lot of people, they want to bring their taxes current. They just don't have the whole amount right now. And so we work with them. And of course, if all else fails, then we have to file a lawsuit and take the properties to sheriff's sale. A lot of times people, when it gets to that point, they find a means or ways to pay their taxes in order to keep the properties. Oh, and as you can see, we collected almost $1.5 million for the school district, and of course, it's always at no cost to the school district. And there's various kinds of payment arrangements. There's some that happen prior to lawsuit, and then there's, like I explained, it's a post-judgment payment arrangement where we take the judgment, but we work out a payment arrangement with the property owner to avoid having to go to the sheriff's cell. And we are out in your community. There's a picture right there of your 5K that we participate in every year, and various other Lions clubs and various other activities within your school district and your cities. We are always out in the community volunteering our time, donating money, and being involved in what is important to the city and the school district. And here are the key people at our firm for Duncanville. You can contact at any time, and we will help you in any way we can. Are there any questions?
Are you finding collections harder this year?
Actually, it's kind of strange. The collections have actually been doing very well this year so far.
Really?
Because, you know, we got the accounts turned over April and July.
Yeah.
So the first 6-month period, it's actually going pretty well.
Good.
Overall, it's going well. So we hope that continues.
Yes, that is good. Thank y'all for participating in community events. That's really important. I appreciate it.
Oh, well, you're welcome.
Any other questions?
Just to tag along with what Janice said, we do appreciate your involvement, you and Pamela, in our community and school district activities. It's always a pleasure to see you at TASB convention or the summer leadership or whatever, but it's a rarity when a vendor, and we have lots of vendors, but it is a real rarity that you guys have supported us so much in so many ways, and your presence is noticed, and we thank you.
Oh, well, thank you. We enjoy doing it.
Any other questions, comments, or discussion? We do thank you, ladies, and your team for all that you do. Thank you for being here, Ms. Johnson and Ms. Tay. Y'all have a good evening.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, we will move to information discussion item, agenda item C, COVID-19 pandemic plan and efforts update, and the presenter is Dr. Mark Smith.
All right, thank you, Madam President. As Dr. Halachka and other teammates come in to touch on various areas, as you know, each month, my goal is to update the board, provide you information on all the things that we're doing as it relates to COVID, whether it be on the staffing side, the student side, the operation side, the technology side. We want to keep you informed and up to date so that you have a very detailed view of our plan and how it's working in real time. And so we're going to be reporting that to you this month. We've got 10 weeks. We break the months of the school year down in increments to focus our priorities. And so we have 10 weeks just about before spring break. And so there are several things that we are focused on that you'll hear this information tonight. And it's all positioned to make sure we're maintaining the health and safety of our staff, health and safety of our students, and that we're still prioritizing the academics and learning. And so our team has worked really hard. They're very dedicated and focused on the work, and I'm proud to have them give you an update this evening.
Well, good evening, Madam President, trustees, and Dr. Smith. It is my pleasure to share with you this evening our ongoing plans related to the COVID-19 pandemic and how we are addressing its impact on student learning. It's our goal to always keep you informed of our current state as it relates to enrollment, attendance, instructional methods, and COVID cases. We will also share this evening some additional plans we have to support our staff and manage the community rise in COVID cases. As we do each month, We will be providing updates regarding our technology deployments and student access to digital resources before sharing with you our plans for mitigating the learning slide. I will begin by giving you an update on our current enrollment and attendance numbers. Our student enrollment continues to remain steady at 96% of our projected enrollment, with 11,807 students currently enrolled. We are continuing to focus on addressing student attendance through truancy prevention measures, home visits, ongoing communication, and family supports. Although our attendance average is still not where we want it to be, considering the impact of the pandemic, we are pleased that the average has remained at or above 94% consistently for the past 2 months. The method of instruction our students are selecting, we'll go on to the next slide, sorry. Next slide. There we go. Okay, the method of instruction our students are selecting has been consistent this grading period, with the majority continuing to engage virtually. However, our window opened on January 4th to allow our students to change their method of instruction beginning with the third 9 weeks. To date, we have 473 students that have submitted a request to change their method of instruction, with 80% of those asking to return to in-person learning. Of course, the window is open until the 18th, so we anticipate additional requests in the coming days. Upon returning from the winter break, we did see an increase in our positive cases and quarantines of students. However, they have primarily been virtual students at this point, and with little impact on our campuses. However, we are seeing an uptick in that this week. We do, however, anticipate that students that were exposed over the break, we are continuing to closely monitor those students for symptoms and reminding students to do their daily screening, as we are continuing to see an increase in our number of positive cases since winter break. I will now turn it over to Mrs. Brown to provide you with an update on our staff.
Good evening. The district has had a total of 211 positive COVID cases and employees since the start of school. We currently, as of Friday, have 39 active cases. This does not include employees who are quarantined due to exposure to someone who is positive in their home, or that are awaiting test results. We have seen yet another increase in positive cases since the winter break. Under the Families First Coronavirus Response Act, certain employers were required to provide emergency paid sick leave and expanded family medical leave through December 31st, 2020. The new stimulus bill has eliminated this obligation. The newly enacted stimulus bill does not extend the requirement that employees provide paid leave beyond that date. However, employees who are subject to the Families First Coronavirus Act may voluntarily extend paid leave until March 31st, 2021. We are very thankful to you for your proactive approach in approving district paid sick leave prior to the start of this school year. For this reason, despite the expiration of the Family First Coronavirus Response Act provision, Duncanville ISD employees will continue to have access to up to 10 days of paid leave due to COVID-related absences. So as others around us are trying to figure out what to do, the proactive approach by our board has covered our employees until the end of this school year. We are continuing to encourage our employees to implement safety protocols in an effort to continue to slow the spread of COVID-19. Thank you.
Going to the next slide. As the pandemic continues, our goal of protecting our staff and students continues as well. TEA and the Texas Department of Emergency Management has offered districts the opportunity to administer COVID tests based on community hospitalization rates. Duncanville ISD qualified for 7,840 COVID tests monthly for all staff. In addition, we were provided the PPE necessary for administering these tests. We anticipate initiating the program later this month after our nurses, clinic assistants, athletic trainers, and others have been trained. This is an optional program for our staff, but we believe with the increasing cases in our county, many of our staff members will appreciate the access and convenience of on-site testing. Personnel will self-administer the nasal swab test under the direction of the trained test administrator. In addition to the COVID testing, we are also working with Dallas County to ensure our nurses have access to the COVID vaccine. Currently, 8 of our nurses have received the vaccine and others have plans to get the vaccine in the coming weeks. We will continue to monitor for opportunities for our other staff members and will move forward with offering the vaccine when it comes available. I will now turn it over to Mrs. Fields for an update on the district technology.
Good evening again, Board. I want to point out to you, first of all, that you have a different page in your board book because we've had some good news since we shared the board book on Friday. So I'm here to give you an update. On January the 4th, right after we returned from the winter break, our 500 Chromebooks are all here. We received 204, yes. On the first day back, we were very excited about that. And of course, that was through Operation Connectivity. Additionally, 222, and we've been waiting on these for a while, 222 student laptops also arrived. We were holding them probably over the break in the warehouse, and so they arrived for us on the 4th of January. So we're celebrating that as well. And then, of course, at the bottom, the last line there, the 193 Chromebooks that were ordered through the Education Foundation. I've added that since I got news about that today. Will have arrival date of February 2021. Really, specifically, we heard today that they will possibly be here by the 11th of February, but I just put February just in case. And then the hotspots, all 100, arrived on the 11th, and so we were excited to be able to share that with you. Of course, we're working with the technology department on deployment, etc. So that's good news, and our total changed. We're at 6,091 devices, and of course, adding the $100,000 to the total that we have, we've spent a little more than $3.1 million on our technology, and so I'm excited to report that to you this evening. Next slide. Also some good news today, which is January the 11th. Our Wi-Fi on wheels deployed this morning at approximately 7:30 a.m. until 4:30. I reported to you last month that we had already configured the buses. We were working with communications on our communication plan, and so a wonderful story was pushed out today. On staff news, Mr. Hammering had the 4 buses, the 4 drivers on site this morning with the monitors to support them. And so far today, we've had a really good day. Of course, we're going to be asking our technology team to really look at the analytics, how many students log on, how long they log on, et cetera. So we should have some data for you to look at. And we're going to be, again, as I shared last month, really looking at if we don't have a lot of students logging on there, we'll change and move the bus in another location. So we're going to give it a little pilot run this time, and then hopefully we'll have some information to share with you. So thanks to our communications team, our tech team, who really did a yeoman's service to getting us prepared, and thanks to transportation, and thank you, board, for your support with the technology. So Wi-Fi on Wheels went live today. I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Halashka.
So the third 9 weeks of the school year will begin soon, and we want to make sure that we are maximizing the learning of our students each day to mitigate the learning slide due to COVID. Although we have several efforts in the works, I'd like to take this opportunity to just highlight a few of the bigger rocks that we are implementing. We have discussed several times the importance of utilizing data to drive instructional decisions. Therefore, we will move forward with our assessment plan for the spring while providing more robust and personalized student data at all levels through the MAP growth assessments that we previously discussed this evening. We will also carry forward our focus on supporting and training our campus leaders on effectively utilizing data. We will also discuss with you our plan for re-engaging students through Operation Connection. And of course, we will continue to create resources to support our teachers with effective lesson design and guide them towards focusing on essential tested standards. We are also proactively planning our summer intervention programs and our calendar to accelerate the learning of students and close the COVID gaps. We will discuss each of these this evening. Beginning this month, we will continue the implementation of our district assessment plan with ongoing measures of student learning. We will have 3 curriculum-based assessments that measure a student's mastery of what they have been taught. We will also assess targeted grade levels using the iStation screener to take a look at growth comparing the beginning, middle, and end of year progress for our kindergarten through 8th grade students. We discussed our reading and math iStation data at the previous board meeting, if you remember. Although there will not be any state accountability this year, we will still have the STAR test. Therefore, we want to continue to prepare students and identify areas for intervention through administering the state's online interim assessments. And then, by the end of the year, we hope to be ready to measure a majority of our students on the MAP growth assessment, in addition to gaining data from the STAR test. Providing our campuses with rich data is a critical first step, but in order for the data to be meaningful, we must create data-driven cultures and structures to ensure our campuses are able to effectively analyze the data and transfer the data to action. We have been working, we'll wait just a second. Not yet. We've been working in partnership with Region 10 Service Center in providing training to our district and campus leadership. We are also strategically developing a comprehensive plan to support ongoing and meaningful analysis of student learning, program effectiveness, and instructional excellence. So with that, I will now turn it over to Dr. Nix to talk about Operation Connection.
Good evening, board. It is a pleasure to be here with you this evening to share with you about Operation Connection, not to be confused with Operation Connectivity. These are all operations that we are engaged in, endeavoring to just make sure that we do everything we can to connect with and ensure learning for our students. On the first slide, Dr. Halachka talked about today everything that we're doing, including making home visits. And as a district, we have realized all of the challenges that have faced us this year with our students. And one of the biggest challenges that we have are our students who are enrolled virtually, yet not engaged in the learning. So calling home and sending letters and all of the efforts and things that we're doing as a district, we have to ask ourselves, are we doing everything that we can be doing to ensure their success? Have we tapped into every resource? And so what we have done as a district is we have a Leadership Academy, ILA, which stands for Inspiring Leadership Academy. And we have ambassadors with that academy that have volunteered to be a part of the committee that gets committees together for the district to actually go out and engage these students and these families. They are volunteering to go to these homes and develop committees that will provide them the information that they need to reconnect, to inform our parents and our families of what their options are. Unfortunately, we have seniors and juniors who are off track to graduate because they're not engaging. We have students of which the learning gap is just continuing to widen, not because they're not enrolled or no, they're just not engaging. And so we're going to do everything we can, quote unquote, Operation Connection, to connect with our families, to inform our families, to provide support for our families where they need support, all in a safe, orderly, and productive environment where it's being planned very thoroughly. We're on a Saturday, which is this upcoming January the 23rd. We'll put together a committee and organization where we're going to go out, and over 100 families have been identified by each, well, let me be clear, over 100 families total, but each school have contributed to that number of 100 families. Where we've identified that we're going to just connect with them. We're going to inform them, we're going to support them, and we're going to do everything we can before this semester ends to provide them with opportunities to be successful. So that's one thing that we're doing as a district, the volunteers that are connected to that. And like I said, we're calling it Operation Connection, and we hope to re-engage those students, get them connected, and ensure their success. I'll turn it over to Dr. Sewell at this time.
Thank you. Good evening, Board. Through our ongoing data analysis of district assessments and our interim assessments, the Curriculum and Instruction Department will design video training sessions to be used to support teachers in knowing how to plan lessons with a curriculum emphasis on high-frequency STAR standards in reading and math, as well as science and social studies high-frequency standards in the respective STAR-tested areas. By designing teacher training and content support for key learning standards, this focus will provide structure for STAR student achievement this spring. Another area of support for addressing the COVID slide will be during our Teacher Professional Learning Day. This training will occur during February 15th. It will be a district-wide PD day. The primary sessions will focus on required curriculum. Teachers will meet with district content leaders and explore upcoming learning strategies and targets and units for instruction, with an emphasis on prioritizing essential learning to address student academic needs. The afternoon sessions will provide for participant choice. Sessions will focus on best practice for virtual instruction, lessons learned from colleagues in the field, and practical tips for continued success with teaching and learning across the district. Additionally, special program instructional support teams will monitor student progress by campus, and they will provide commensurate support. There'll be ongoing training for supporting learning accommodations, for supporting language needs, and other areas that they identified through assessment data. Intervention groups will be designed to support students at the campus level. Next slide, thank you. So planning has started for our 2021 summer support programs. Currently, the Curriculum and Instruction Department is designing a teacher survey to garner interest and a survey to see if teachers will be interested and will consider teaching summer school this summer. The survey will be launched this week, January the 11th, the week of January the 11th. And with many complexities resulting from our pandemic, we really decided that this year would be a year to have an academic steering committee for our summer programming. The steering committee will gain input for various ways to support students who are academically behind in their grade level. As traditionally designed, there will be summer requirements for students who have failed due to their grades or attendance. Criteria will also be developed with the steering committee regarding student eligibility to enroll in the Extended Support Academic Summer School. Also, there will be learning opportunities for our youngest pre-K and kindergarten students, and that will be to increase literacy and math success for them to meet grade level expectations.
Special education students will also have summer sessions to continue support for their learning throughout the summer and to avoid learning regression. Lastly, there will be offerings of enrichment classes for students in our advanced academic programs, for students in our school choice programs, for students in college dual credit, as well as career technical education programs and internships. Now I'll turn it over to Ms. Richard to review calendar adjustments.
Good evening, board, again. As you've already decided this evening, we've decided to go with calendar A for the academic calendar for the upcoming school year, which provides those 12 additional instructional days for students. And so that additional time of having teachers and students working together in the classroom is really going to be a huge impact in impacting and addressing the learning decline that we've seen through COVID. And so again, that additional instructional time will definitely provide increased engagement and offer the opportunity to really enhance what instruction is being provided. Again, teachers will continue to work 187 days. So the days that teachers will work, their contract time will remain the same. But again, they will have more time with students moving forward with the calendar that you've approved this evening. And so that will be a big difference and really impact moving forward what the next school year has planned. Thank you.
So as we do each month, we provide you with a lot of information in this presentation, but it is our goal to keep you informed of the impact of the pandemic and how we are strategically working to plan and address the effects of COVID-19 on the operations of the district and the learning of our students. Thank you for your ongoing support and for the opportunity to share with you this evening, and we are happy to answer any questions you may have at this time.
Are there any questions, comment, or discussion? Trustee Colton?
Thank you all very much for your comprehensive presentation and for what you all do for the students day in and day out. We really appreciate it. I just have a couple of questions. Will our health insurance cover vaccines for employees 100%?
They're not charged.
They're not charged.
They're, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so they're, okay. And then, I know that there are other, and this may be a question for Dr. Smith. I know that there are other school districts in Central Texas that are requiring students who attend school virtually that are failing to attend school in person.
Yes.
I guess, have you all looked at that?
Yes. Thank you for bringing that up. Yes, there are a few districts in Central Texas and even closer proximity to us that are requiring students to come back. And it's based on really those students checking out and not engaging. And so we have talked about that as a team. What we want to do is to really see who we can reach and see the impact of Operation Connectivity once we get out there in the field and get into the homes and that sort of thing, and then see what impact that has. And if we see an uptick in those students engaging, we know that there's going to come a time in this semester where we're going to have to make a critical decision. If there are X number of seniors that are, even after we've implemented Operation Connectivity, that are still not responsive, then we may indeed have to move to that. So I'm just watching the data, I'm studying and considering, not ready to commit to that yet, but it is definitely part of the discussion and on the table.
So are these students present but not present?
Yes, the students, they're enrolled in the district, they are present, and they're just not engaging for a number of reasons. And by not engaging, these are, of course, the virtual students. So they may not log on to multiple lessons throughout the course of a day, or they may not be submitting assignments in a timely fashion. And that's even after, you know, the schools, the teachers, they're still reaching out and attempting to get those students to engage. But, you know, I just have to tell you, the other, last week, I went to Kroger to pick up something. This was during the school day. And one of the young man that was checking us out, he was a student at Duncanville High School. He spoke to me. He had a cast on his hand. And this Saturday at the game, I'm standing on the sideline, and he raised his cast up and said, "Hey, Dr. Smith, do you remember me at the grocery store?" And I said, "Absolutely, I remember you at the grocery store." So my point in sharing that story is we have some students who are actually working to support their families and support themselves, and they're not engaged, they're not logging in. He's working at Kroger during instructional day. So we got to save those students like that, and we understand there are some critical family decisions that some of our parents are having to make, but you know, we know the value of them making that sacrifice to get the education. So I'm just going to continue to study and monitor. We'll see what happens after we implement our Operation Connectivity, and then those students that are still not engaging and are at risk of not graduating, then we'll have to take that next step at that point in time.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments, or discussion? Trustee Stady?
Yes, I have a question about the calendar. Is the 180-day student extension, I mean, is that trending? Is that something that we'll see more of in other districts?
Actually, yes. There are several districts who recognize the need and are going in that direction, and then there are others who maybe don't have the higher need and they aren't going in that direction. There are also some initiatives from TEA that are requiring 180 days to be able to meet certain standards to receive funding for certain things. And so there's another benefit to us doing 180 days. So it is encouraged at the state level.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comment, or discussion? Okay. We would like to thank Dr. Halachka, Mrs. Brown, Mrs. Fields, Dr. Nix, Dr. Sewell, and Ms. Richards for your time and your presentations tonight. Thank you. And thank you, Dr. Smith.
Thank you.
Okay, we will now move to communications from citizens. And we do not have communications from citizens, but before we adjourn, I wanted to take a moment to thank the Reed Middle School Choir for the amazing display of talent and the time and thoughtfulness. We really appreciate that. And then I wanted to thank each campus for their generosity and time spent preparing the gifts for School Board Appreciation Month. And finally, last but not least, want to thank Dr. Smith and his team for being committed and dedicated to leading us through this pandemic with professionalism and a high level of care and concern.
Hear, hear,
So,
yes.
Thank you all. So we have nothing further, so this meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.